Hi everybody, David here from Mortgage Choice in Frankston. We all would have seen the news by now that the RBA has increased the cash rate to 4.1%. A little bit behind the ball on the news, but I still wanted to send out a video of what my thoughts are on the announcement, what I'm seeing in the market, and a little bit of insight around interest rates in terms of fixed and in terms of where we're expecting to see them go moving forward. So, get started. The RBA, they did still lean on the fact that last year, the second half of last year, we had a bit of a rise in inflation, and so they're trying to curb that down again. You can see in the graph that the second half of 2025 is when we increased. We want to get that down to 2 to 3% rather than the 3.8% that it was standing at January. We'll get another update on that figure in a few weeks in April. Now, the fact that they're using the war in the Middle East and the rising cost of petrol to me is unfair, but I don't get to make the rules or the decisions. We do this example each month, but the 25% or each RBA announcement, the 25 basis point increase will increase repayments by about $16 for every 100,000 that you owe. So it does add up quite quickly. No change considering that we've got another 0.25 that just came in. Extra $16 a month for every 100k you owe. But this is typically with variable rates. So when you're on a fixed rate, that won't change. If you were just about to go to a fixed rate, you would have to check with your lender if they've already changed them compared to when you applied. That's something that I want to touch on next. We've got a few lenders that are offering 5.74% to 5.85% as a fixed term, 5.9%. And that fixed term is for 1 or 2 years. A lot of people's rates right now are sitting in this bracket here, this 5.65 to 5.90. And so when that increases, we're up to 5.9 to 6.15. So a fixed rate might be worthwhile for a year or two. We're expecting rates to continue to increase. We're likely going to see another win in May, another rise. And so you can see here, this was just before the rate rise where this bar is. So we've already gone up by 0.25. We're sitting 4.1. But we've got another 40 odd basis points to go, according to this. So if we've got another 40 basis points to go, and we're locking in around this level, 5.74, 5.9, we're probably going to save money. Now, like I said, it's got to make sense for your circumstances because fixed rates have limitations. The fixed rates at your lender might not make sense for you. We've got to review things very particularly, but it is a big part of my conversations with clients these days. Should we fix, or should we at least fix a portion of the mortgage to reduce the impact of these rises? For first home buyers, I'm seeing a big change. I'm seeing a lot of them shifting towards units and try and minimize the mortgage repayments, which is great. Minimize the purchase price as well, and so units are obviously a bit cheaper than a full property, a standalone house, and that's getting them into the market. They're happy to sacrifice the big property, the backyard, and everything like that, the home that'll last them 30 years, so that they can get into the market, so they can at least start their property journey. So I think it's fantastic that they're willing to take a longer view and just jump into the market where it suits them, not so much try and get the big house that'll last them forever, but it's going to cost them the world. They want their lifestyle as well. Fixed rates, like I said, are things that we're talking about all the time, especially with first home buyers when they're getting used to higher repayments or the cost of owning a property. Tricky part with fixed rates when you don't have a property yet, like we're getting a pre-approval and we're making sure that we're reviewing fixed rates. But the fixed rate, like I said, it can change depending on when you apply to when you actually obtain the loan, when you settle. So if you're just getting a pre-approval, the rate might be very different when you actually find a house and then settle on that house. Some banks will allow you to lock the rate in when you apply, but it's only valid for 90 days. And so if you don't, again, find a house within that time frame, rates will change by the time you move in. So we're discussing fixed rates, but we're not making any final decision until you've found a property and we know what's going to suit best. Second part of the pre-approval, the real importance of a pre-approval is locking in your capacity. So several lenders, when you're applying, they'll lock in how much you can afford based on interest rates at the time you get the pre-approval. If interest rates increase, you still have that assessment rate locked in. It's valid for 90 days, and so it prevents you having to adjust and review what your maximum purchase price is every time there's a rate rise, because you're locked in, you've got it. Now we've got interest rates that were increased yesterday. We've got that week odd buffer until banks will actually put that in place. So we've got about a week to get pre-approvals in place before we have to account for that rate rise and reduce people's capacity. So if you're looking at a pre-approval that we are already in discussion about, if you're wanting one, we need to get one in place very quickly, provided your capacity is borderline with your goals. So be sure to reach out if that's the case for yourself. Upgraders I touched on, off-market purchasing and selling last time. I'm still seeing a lot more of that. People are really trying to test the market before they jump in. So they want to see, does an agent have a lot of interest in my type of property? What kind of properties are out there that I can go and inspect on my own time, on a private inspection, rather than the typical Saturday morning, afternoon, that 30 other people are going to be there at the same time. They're also considering selling a lot more than renting out their existing property. So they're looking to move, they need a bigger house, but getting the pre-approval, they're talking to agents, but they're they're more so now leaning towards selling the property than they are keeping it as a rental and trying to build their property portfolio. It's more so about keeping their repayments low, keep it simple, and just move on with their life and focus on that rather than focus on increasing their financial standing, their assets. Investors, I'm actually seeing a bit of a lean towards properties that are already tenanted. They're looking for properties that have people in them, and so they don't need to worry about finding somebody else. That will most likely jack up the rent when the current lease expires, but they know that they've got someone in there ready to go, and so they can start making money from day one instead of having to start the campaign to find tenants. I'm also seeing a lot more investors using a buyer's agent. So for those who don't know, a buyer's agent is like an agent who is selling the property, but they help you find one. They go and make offers on your behalf. They research property markets and find the right one that's going to suit your needs and your criteria, your sheet. I am seeing a big lean towards that, which I think is fantastic. They are worth their money. They charge a fair amount, but they will find you a good deal. They will do a lot of work on your behalf, and if you're time poor in particular, they save you thousands of dollars and tens of hours. So that's what I'm seeing more on the investors side. Still seeing a lot of interstate purchases in the Queensland and WA markets, but I'm also seeing a little bit more in regional Victoria as well. Refinancing, I don't normally have this tab on here, this slide on here, but it's something I wanted to bring up again because of the interest rate changes that are coming and where fixed rates are sitting. A lot of people are going to struggle with the increased repayments, and so fixing in at a certain amount, a certain rate will help them. They can manage their finances, manage their budget a lot easier. But maybe we also just need to consolidate some debts. Maybe we are stretching a debt over a longer period of time. A car loan might have 3 years left. We're putting it over a 10 or a 30-year term. It's not great in the long run, but if cash flows a struggle, it lets us get through this period so that when interest rates start to come down or if incomes start to increase, we can then focus again on paying down those debts and catching up. So we don't ever want to put someone in a worse position financially, but we're also conscious that if you can't make repayments, there needs to be a change. We need to make sure that you're living comfortably and you're not stressing yourself to sleep. The other part of refinancing is the product that you actually have. Sometimes banks only allow you to have one offset account, and you might have your money split into like kids savings, a holiday, a spending, and insurances, whatever you have. You might need more than one account as an offset, and so we might need to look at that. Some banks offer lower fixed rates than your current one does. We need to look at the market and see what is going to suit best. So if you're unsure if you're on a good deal, if you've been considering consolidating debt because cash flow is getting a little bit tight, like I said, reach out and we can go through all of the details and make sure we sort out the problem, but consider the long-term impact and make sure we find a good balance of what's going to work now, but not be detrimental in the long run. So I'll leave it there, nearly on 10 minutes. Thanks for watching as always. And like I said, be sure to reach out. Always happy to have a conversation and make sure you're on a good deal. Make sure that everything is best for you.